Welcome back to Midlife Mayhem. I'm Kim Branham, RN BSN and owner of Thin Space Wellness. This is my dear friend, Kerry Rasenberger, and we are here to talk about the beautiful chaos of midlife.
There's a lot of chaos. It gets better, though, as you get closer to 60.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us. So Kerry and I have known each other for probably 25 years?
25 years.
Wow, yeah. So we were neighbors a long time ago, and this is her dog, Bear, who's a very sweet, gentle giant. But we were neighbors 25 years ago, and I taught her son and daughter guitar lessons.
Yeah.
That's how we
They started in first grade.
Yeah. So since then, Kerry and I reconnected right when Stephen and I were starting our company, and we ran into Kerry and a friend of ours at Costco and just reconnected. And I learned all about what her new venture was, and she learned about ours, and we got together, and it's just been awesome.
It is. And it's just, I just love every time I'm with Kim. We always have such great conversations, and she's helped me a lot too, but we'll talk about that one on another episode.
Yeah. So we, Kerry and I have these walks. Like when we meet, Kerry is now one of our patients. She was one of our very first patients when we started the company. And thank you for that faith in us. But so Kerry and I would get together and go for walks on our appointments.
And I need to put him inside. Sorry, everybody. He just wants attention. It's my Scooby-Doo.
Oh my gosh, it's the cutest thing ever.
He will. He'll just keep talking.
Oh,
yes.
Cute.
Okay, go to place. Go lay down.
But anyway, so we would get together for these long walks and just talk and talk and talk. And I would always leave feeling just so relieved and just like so many of the things that I don't talk to other people about or think that other people wouldn't understand, you get.
I do.
A lot of it surrounding divorce. Like if you've seen the podcast on divorce. For those of you listening and not watching, it was just like a Turner and Hooch with this dog. It was so funny. I know.
Okay, Bear.
So, Kerry, will you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Okay. Bear. This is terrible. Come on. You're going inside.
See, Bear heard that we don't edit the podcast, so he just wanted to have his moment to shine.
Go.
But we're at Kerry's house today. Mo's inside doing his virtual schoolwork. And this is midlife, right? It's like, I just took Mo. I get Botox injections in my head and my neck for migraine headaches. And so Mo had to go to my doctor's appointment with me to do that. So yeah, it's just midlife.
You know, it's not children, it's the dogs.
They're kind of like kids.
Yeah, they are, especially one that weighs 135 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about what you do.
I would love to. I've really put in a lot of research, worked with a lot of workshops with different doctors like Dr. Romney, and have gotten into starting a life coaching business. And I work with women that are in toxic relationships. And most of them are in a relationship, whether it's a boss or it could be their parents or spouses, with someone that has, I'm going to say, highly toxic traits. And these traits are very narcissistic. I'm very careful with using that word because so many times you hear people say, oh, well, he's narcissistic, she's narcissistic.
Right.
And unless you really understand what narcissistic abuse is, it's not a word just to throw out there because there's so much depth and understanding. There's a lot of dealing with emotional abuse, financial abuse, psychological abuse, verbal abuse. Physical abuse can be driving recklessly to scare the person too. So I work with people to be aware because a lot of times what's so hard about these narcissistic relationships, they aren't always mean, right? There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of consistent inconsistency. And when you get a lot of those ups and downs, you have moments that you feel loved, and then you have moments that what's going on? There's a lot of confusion. There's cognitive dissonance where you're getting two mixed messages, and it just leaves you into, well, maybe the problem's me. You know, maybe I'm the one that's doing something. And so we really work with awareness of what the truth is, what are their patterns, and it's important for us to learn our patterns too, because when we're in a toxic, abusive relationship, we can do patterns that aren't healthy for us, like being extreme people pleasers, right? Of always walking on eggshells, making sure, we're trying to make them happy so they don't get explosive, or making sure that we keep peace, but we sacrifice ourselves. And a lot of times that takes us into survival mode and living in silence for a lot of decades. And that pain is pretty brutal. And that's where we can really lose ourselves after this goes long term, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important to understand first of what are narcissistic traits, right? And I'm not a psychiatrist, so I cannot diagnose somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. However, I'm very aware of what they have to be diagnosed, right? Never taking accountability, blame game, projection, grandiosis of always thinking they are entitled, better than everybody else. It can be Jekyll and Hyde, where what goes on at home is very different than what's in public. It's manipulation, gaslighting, belittling you, never being in a relationship where you're never feeling heard or listened to, that you're never valued. And one of the things that drives somebody that has highly narcissistic personality is they want to be in power. They want to be in control. They want to be the number one. And it's a lot of times driven because of their own insecurities. So,
and if I could jump in for a second.
Please do.
So just so you know, when Kerry and I go on these long walks and we've had these conversations, when she was telling me about what she does and what all the narcissistic characteristics are, and maybe some of you listening are feeling this way, but I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like I had no idea like what that label truly meant. And I've learned so much from her and appreciate it so much because I thought there were moments in my life I can look back and think I was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a common thing that
like
people,
gaslight. You taught me about all these terms like the gaslighting and love bombing. Is that one of them?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole cycle.
Yeah.
And what's very confusing is a lot of times people that have, the narcissistic traits, they have a lot of charm. They have a lot of charisma. They make you feel like you're the best thing ever, right? And you're the best person I ever met. You're my soulmate. And they come on strong in that love bombing. Who doesn't want to be loved, right? We all want to be loved. We all want to feel that this person is so into me. In that love bombing in a stage, it could be a boss, it could be your parents, but that love bombing can last. Sometimes it lasts 6 months. You just don't know. And all of a sudden things start changing a little bit, right? It goes from love bombing to devaluing. And devaluing, it could be, you go and talk to somebody and they don't look at you in the eyes. And you're like, what's going on? What did I do? How did I piss that person off, right? Or they won't even acknowledge you. Or it could be they are in a room and you're there with your kids and they could say to you, well, tell your mother that it's time to leave, but you're right there. And that hurts. That's triangulation, right? And a lot of times people might think, well, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but oh, it's a big deal. When this is happening decades and you aren't even looked at and you aren't spoken to in front of your own children, that's one of those silent pains in these relationships I don't think we talk enough about. And so you go from love bombing, devaluing, and then it goes discarding, where they want nothing to do with you. You can just go leave. They could even say, I want to divorce you, get lost. And you're just in tears, breaking down, trying everything you can to make that marriage work. Because that's not what you wanted, right? You didn't sign up for that.
Right.
And then it goes back to hoovering, because once you can start pulling away, then they might try to be like, oh, I'm losing that person. I'm losing my what's called narcissistic supply. So they'll do the term hoovering you back, like the vacuum cleaners suck you back in. And then sometimes, they'll just bait you, just like you do with the little ducks at the pond, give them one piece of bread and they follow. But there's real true things that happen to people in these relationships, because when we start getting the breadcrumbs it's releasing that endorphins that we're actually feeling loved in the morning. We're getting that attention that we so want that they take away. And what really happens is that we become an addiction to the abuse. It's not by choice. It's called trauma bonding. And there's even some psychiatrists now that have proven with neurologists that the addiction to the trauma bonding, these toxic relationships, are even more severe than heroin addiction.
Wow.
So that's why it's so hard to break, because what happens is we hit rock bottom, we feel depressed, we feel beaten up, and then we're getting that a little love. And this could happen every other day. This could happen a week of they're being mean. This can happen in the morning, the mean, and in the afternoon, they're loving you so much that you would think nothing ever happened, right? And it causes such a confusion where it actually starts making us, just like you say, that maybe I'm the crazy one, because what they do, they're so good at their manipulation. They're so masters that they're like, well, you're making that up in your mind. It could just be like, Kim, you're making that up in your mind. I didn't say any of that.
Yeah.
You're crazy. Why do you think that? You're the one with the problem in this relationship. It's not me. And so all of those, and a lot of times the people that are the targets are people that have a lot of empathy and golden hearts and ones that want to give people second chances and want to try hard and want to make things work, right? And so when this cycle happens over and over, that's what gets so confusing. That's what gets us into a survival mode. And when we get into survival mode, we're living in a numbness, right? We're living in, it just hurts. We're just trying to make it by. We're trying to look happy to all the outsiders. We're trying to, look good to our children so they don't maybe see all of it. We're trying to, make everybody happy, but then we get put on such the back burner. And what happens in survival mode is we lose ourselves. And when we lose ourselves, that's another deep silence pain. We don't eat well. We could get into junk food. We're gaining weight. We aren't exercising. We aren't sleeping well. And all of that with midlife crisis of what's going on and trying to be a good parent, it's a lot of turmoil. It's heavy. And so it's such a deep process that a lot of people don't understand. And when I first start working with women, a lot of time they're like, I was in this relationship for 30 years. I didn't even realize it was so toxic. And working with them, for a couple years, we don't even get to the word abuse yet because that's so hard. They're very, very smart women. Some of them are extremely high up in companies, in their own businesses. But in these romantic relationships, that's where it's just, it's knocked them down, where they lose hope, but in the relationship, false hope is what's keeping them going.
Yeah. And it's almost like brainwashing.
It is.
Some of it sounds like brainwashing, where
it is like a brainwashing.
What you knew of yourself when you met the person, like, completely changes just from those experiences. And I love, like, hearing you talk about how it becomes like an addiction, a form of addiction, because it makes so much sense. Like when I've had relationships in my life and it's not been necessarily with spouse, but, like family members, and wanting to please them so desperately, and there's no pleasing them. And it becomes like this challenge, but like when you do please them, the dopamine release, you're just like, oh, and makes so much sense.
And it's, and the worst thing you can say to somebody in a toxic relationship is, well, why don't you just leave? And I don't know. I can't tell you how many times that's what people that are supposed to be support systems for, it goes both ways, women and men in these relationships, that they say, but it's not that easy. Trauma bonding, it is a brainwashing, right? But you also have the abuse, the intermittent, like cohesive control manipulation, but then follow up in the same time is, I love you. Oh my gosh, you took that the wrong way. You're so sensitive. And really it's a step of conditioning you. And it's that's another way you could just say you're conditioned of, they get you jealous on purpose. They belittle you on purpose. They make you feel nothing, where you get to such a point in their manipulation that you just doubt yourself and you lose your self-worth. It's pretty brutal. It's very deep, and I would love for people to hear this, to really start getting an understanding of what the truth is in these relationships. It's just not easy to leave. And I already mentioned it. We work on awareness, right? What is the pattern of the toxic person? And sometimes it's really good if you can keep tallies.
Yeah.
Today I was, belittled. I didn't know anything. I was worthless. I was not seen. How often does that happen? When we can start really seeing their patterns, and sometimes little journals, start taking the notes down. How many times did they have a rage? Rages are scary. Rages when they really lose all control. Their eyes, you even hear stories, and I've had experiences myself. Their pupils turn black from everything chemistry going on, chemical going on in their bodies. And their rages are scary. And their rages happen even when they aren't drinking. And that's, that keeps you living in fear. And living in fear, living unloved, trying to prove yourself. But so important to do the patterns. And then we got to look at ourselves. What are we tolerating that is allowing this to happen? Right? How do we stop tolerating behavior that's not healthy for us?
Yeah. Well, and even, going beyond like relationships, and like if people are listening to this and they're sitting here going, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with it, I'm living this.
Yeah.
You think about like, and we've talked about a lot of things from the divorce perspective. So I'm out of that situation, thank goodness. But when you have children with your exes, clearly the relationship never ends. Like you divorce the person and you're stuck with them forever. And so what advice do you have for people who are dealing with, and you've shared some amazing advice with me, but for people who are dealing with divorced situations where they have ex-spouses who are narcissists, where they're still dealing with that, from a parental perspective and sharing custody and making decisions about the children, like
it can be really challenging, but there are a lot of tools we can do. Being aware of, once you put on that detective mindset where you can kind of inside calling them out without calling them out to them, of, okay, I'm being manipulated right now. Okay, that's a lie. That's, that is making up, projection of, to try to blame me. That's their blame game. Really educate yourself, because you need to know that first. But there are really important tools to learn. One is gray rocking. You can never win an argument with a narcissist. It's just never going to happen. The way you win is not engaging. And gray rocking is an important tool. It's a lot of talking about the rain, of talking about like the rain, the weather, talking about, just leave out adjectives, direct points, kind of like what you'd have on a resume. And it's not having an attitude or a voice. It's just, no, this is happening this day. I will be away next week, so you can't have the dog. It's just real point blank. And that's a healthy tool. Not engaging is only engage when you have to, because if you're always engaging, it's just going to give them more ammunition to use against you. And it's really, what's important is soul distancing. Never give anybody that has these toxic traits anything that means a lot to you or anything that's hurting, because I guarantee you it'll be used against you somewhere down the road. And so a lot of times you just give them what you have to talk to them about. Boundaries are key. Setting up, they aren't going to like it, and they can be quite ugly at first. But once you're consistent about your boundaries and you maintain it, they just know they can't break it. But that's really hard to do. And a lot of times in these relationships, we have kind of learned from them not to have boundaries to be walked on, right? Which also has us carry that into other relationships where sometimes we're giving too much. So we really need to relearn how to set boundaries. And the safest place to do is start with somebody that you feel very comfortable with, right? Someone that you trust and that's not going to hurt you. So, like, I could even, let's say if I started boundaries with you, it could be as simple of, Kim, I just can't do it today. Right. Whereas usually in a narcissistic relationship, even if I can't do it, I found a way to do it.
Right.
Or I always said yes. And I always just got walked on. So start with somebody that you feel comfortable and trust. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You have to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
And what's important is also to come back to you. These relationships take a pause. Don't respond. They have a lot of times conditioned you when they text you. Oh my gosh, I got to text right back. Otherwise, he or she's going to be so explosive, go off on me, and it's going to stress me out. Take a pause. That's a conditioning that they've trained you to do to respond. Start by 15 minutes. Don't respond back. Go to a half hour. I have some clients now when they have to respond back to an ex and it's not something pertaining to the kids and not urgent, even though the narcissistic person thinks it's urgent, they will wait 3 or 4 days now.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of them because that's such growth.
Yeah.
And they have cut so much contact. They have adult kids, so it's a little bit easier than kids that are, going back with parenting and custody. But that is huge, right? Or if you're going through a separation and the narcissistic person knows the only way, because you've done so well of going no contact, but they know the only way to get back to you is to make a fuss about seeing the dog and having the dog for a weekend. Say no once in a while. If it doesn't work for you that weekend, it doesn't work for you. And so these are it to some people it might sound easy. It's really hard to do at first, but the more you do it, the better it's going to be. And it's so important. And this can even go with a boss. I'm thinking of my clients that have had real narcissistic boss. I got to have this right now. I got to have this right now. They're calling them at 10 o'clock in the morning. They're sending texts at 6 in the morning. I was like, don't respond. You don't start working your day until 8:39.
Yeah.
Don't respond. If the house isn't literally burning down, don't respond.
Yep.
Because when we respond to that demand, we're putting gasoline into their car.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And, some of the things that you and I have talked about, like, because I've been divorced for a very long time from my ex-husband, and we do have a son together. But some of the, growing pains of having teenage kids, and it's something that I think I had a vision in my head of what my relationship with my ex would look like. And I'm learning this with my family, with my son, with different people. It's like these relationships aren't going to look the way I want them to. And I wanted so badly for my ex and I to be able to like co-parent and just do what's truly best for our son. And when I finally like got my mind around the fact that it was never going to be that way.
It's not.
It was never going to be that way. It couldn't be that way, but I kept trying to like force it to be like this amicable thing. And when I finally just took that pressure off and was like, you know what? This is what it is, and I'm just gonna have to deal with it. And you helped me through a lot of those things, like really making sure that the boundaries were there, not losing my cool, biting my tongue a whole lot, and it really helped to kind of put things in perspective and accept that relationships change and that relationships aren't going to be what they should be in your mind. Like that's been such a thing for me this year is like all the shoulds. But I love that, like, you can help people even in divorce. Like this is, Kerry works with people that not just that are in marriages or in relationships like this, but people that are still dealing with it, people that are on the other side of it, not dealing with the people, but just trying to heal so that they can have healthy relationships moving forward. And you have clients, did you say you have one in Australia? She has clients worldwide.
Worldwide. Australia, I got Europe, Ireland, England, a lot in the West Coast, East Coast. But it's one thing that's important to realize is that we all go through this. It's not just United States. It's all in
Yeah.
relationship. But one thing you just brought up that was really important. I know some of my clients that, are going through a divorce, and some of them, it's almost 3 years and their divorce isn't finalized. What they struggle with at times is in these narcissistic relationship to the target, a lot of things just isn't fair, right? The abuse isn't fair. The financial control isn't fair. The way the narcissist tells lies all the time to the children, it isn't fair. And one thing that has helped a lot is in this process, you hear a lot of radical acceptance. I'd like to reword it as radical awareness, because we don't need to accept that they're that way. Accept it as an awareness that they're that way. And even people like that has done decades of years of research on these personalities, even people like Dr. Omni will say they aren't going to change. It's very rare. And it's like a severe alcoholic that needs therapy to really do change, and something they have to work. So really that radical awareness of accepting they aren't going to change, it's not going to get better. And when they say all these lies, let them, right? Just let them. As hard as it feels, let them, unless you really have to interact because it's children living at home, because people will see the true colors. These people, you see their true colors once you get to know them. And part of that in the divorce process that has been hard is the children see the side now of when they go through the divorce, that the narcissist's personality is acting all sweet. And then you're seeing the side of, oh, that's just so fake. That's just the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. And it's putting it on really strong to win the kids over. And that's painful. That's a painful thing to go through when you know the truth and you're sitting in the truth. And so I think sometimes those are some of the silent struggles.
Well, maybe not even sharing it with the kids, because I know, like in our situation,
share it with the kids.
I worked really hard to not talk about my ex in front of my son.
Yeah,
I never wanted to say anything negative. I was always in a supportive stance when it came to his dad. It was not reciprocated.
Right.
And so that is the hard part, is feeling like you've got to defend yourself because things are being told, lies are being told to your children and external people. So it's like you said in the beginning about like them just being able to, they seem like this just amazing person on the outside.
Right.
So nobody else maybe even knows what was being dealt with, because they hide it so well and they just conceal that part of their lives.
And that's so true. I think that is a really painful, but what I always will talk about with a client is talk factual to the kids, not from the emotional pain, because facts are facts, right? Of, if the dad or mom, because narcissistic personalities can be a men and women. I just don't want to be talking one way. The lies, you can talk facts of what really actually happened, but just ground yourself, take a pause and leave out the emotional when you're talking to the kids. But also we need to be gentle with ourselves. There are times we're going to break down, and there are times that things are going to feel just so unfair because of the manipulation of the narcissistic personality that we do break down sometimes in front of the kids. And that's okay too, because they need to see that we're human. They need to see, and not to be so tough on yourself. But when you can talk factual, it goes a lot longer way. Then they'll see the truth of what's coming from the other side.
That is such a great point.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Because I feel like, it's like if you're quiet and you don't address to correct the truth, that can be harmful to the kids, because then you're not standing up for yourself, or you're not standing up for what they're being told. That makes a lot of sense.
And it's important to stand up for yourself, but it's also important that the kids don't need to know every detail about the divorce. It's between you and your spouse if you're going through the divorce. However, truth needs to be truth to some point. And where do you draw the line in the sand of what you share and what you don't share? And sometimes it just has to be, I'm thinking of a situation of another client where the soon to be ex is very well off, but wants to give nothing to his soon to be ex-wife, but he's telling the kids, I'm giving her everything, giving everything. And there comes a line of, what do you share and what you don't? Because the kids are hearing from the dad, oh, I gave your mom everything, I have nothing. But really the facts come to it's reverse, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, they're really, really hard. But the most important thing, I think, is to tell everybody, come back to yourself. When you pause, and we need to know what's going on in your body because it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And we can feel depressed. We can feel just so overwhelmed sometimes. That come back to your body. What do you feel right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What's causing that? Okay, I have 100 things going on right now that are taking control and I can't get grounded. Well, then what is the one thing that you can focus on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just take one thing, because there's a lot of things we try to control in life and we have no control. We can't control a narcissist. You have no control, but we can control how we respond, or either respond or not respond, right? So if we can break down things more simple and just look at one thing of what we can control and put the rest in the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get that, what's your next step, right?
Instead of feeling so overwhelmed
Yes.
with it. Yeah.
And come back to you. What do I need? I know with me, when I went through some really hard times, I put no focus on myself. That's when I gained so much weight and didn't work out, wasn't running. And I was always on the back burner, and I didn't put anything. And so what I did is just made a big sign by my computer, popped up on my phone every day, capital YOU, you. And so every day it'd be like, just to focus on me, because I would always be, what do the kids need? Oh, what do I do this school? Then a PTA president, then doing this, getting the sports. Never put me first. And what I've learned in life, once I've learned to really put me first, I have so much more love to give to the kids. That is so genuine.
Yeah.
And is so
Agreed.
healthy. But then they're also seeing me take care of myself. And that's a big, we talked about the narcissistic relationship, but in the healing process, it's so important. It's not fast. It takes a long time. But what's the most important is coming back to you. And if you ever want to really bug a narcissist, is be happy and take care of yourself. Find your own passions, put yourself first, start really loving yourself. That's such a trendy word, but it's so darn important.
Mm-hmm.
And really self-love is just regards for yourself and, loving yourself and your well-being. We should all care about that, because that allows us to be a better parent, coming from a place where we're more grounded and we can give better advice. And then also, I think one thing I had to learn is really listening to my body. When I was exhausted, I felt like I had to keep going, because that was a trauma response. Do, right? And no, sometimes I just need to lay in bed and watch a movie.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I'm not great about doing that still to this day. Like, I
Yeah.
still go, 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 go. And it's like, I'm starting to recognize more when my body's telling me that it needs to change state.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be when I would, like, if I'm working away on the computer, I would grab a snack.
Yeah.
And I would snack my way through it.
I
And
was a
it just
big
helped
grazer.
me, like, keep
Mm-hmm.
breezing through, instead of being like, I need to go for a walk, or I
Right.
need to stop and just read a book for a minute. Or
Mm-hmm.
And so those things, it took a lot of self-analyzation to find those things and find the things that made me feel better and the self-care that I needed. Um, but again, it's not one of my strong points to slow down, but I need to work on that for sure.
But that's so important. And, one thing going back to, I said to look at the pattern of the narcissistic person, right? Just as equal is to look at our patterns. A lot of my patterns were formed growing up with a narcissistic father that was an alcoholic, right? Of always, being in freeze mode where I wasn't seen, so I felt like I wouldn't be yelled at, or always doing to get that little praise of good job or way to go. That didn't happen often, but
Yeah.
to get that. So a lot of my patterns started when I was young, that carried through high school into toxic relationships into my 20s. And we repeat over and over our patterns because we're trying to heal something inside that we are unaware of. And so until we heal that, so many times we're just going to do the exact same thing over. So coming out of these abusive relationships, it's so important to give a good year to yourself and really heal and dig deep. And that's where we really need to accept of what could I have done different? How are my responses not healthy for me, right? And so when we can really do a self-reflection, then we can start learning, excuse me, and learning what we need. And sometimes, just like you just said, rest is the most important thing in life. And we don't give it to ourselves enough. And giving ourselves permission to do what we need is fantastic.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like, just the the big crazy spiral that like takes people down to becoming somebody that they don't recognize anymore. It's hard to take time for yourself and to know what to do. It's like, well, okay, self-care, what does that look like for me? And so in the patients that I work with, it's really important to be able to step back and just say, okay, let's make a list of like what your ideal self-care would be. And some people are like, I have no idea. I don't even know what that looks like. And so it's really digging deep and journaling and, thinking about how you can just care for yourself so you can, like you said, care for other people, and your kids and your family. And oh my gosh, there's so much to this topic that's just like
It is.
amazing.
There's so many levels. And self-care is, to me, self-love's an umbrella, right? And underneath it, you have self-care, self-worth, you have confidence, everything,
Yeah.
everything that adds to that. And we're always evolving, even when we feel, I've come so far, but I can still be triggered, right? Even when my dog wasn't doing well, it triggered me so majorly of, oh my gosh, I can't live without him, right? And it just took some really emotional things to work through on those days, but then it took me back to self-care. It's okay to sit with this. It's okay to sit with sadness. Before I used to ignore it, avoid it, numb me, and not sit with sadness. But I think part of the healing process is it's okay to sit with it. It's okay to cry. Crying does amazing things for us.
Yeah.
Releases the endorphins, it releases stress, it reduces our cortisol. It, just makes us feel better. But it all goes back to you need to do what's right for you. And that brings you to a healthier path of, in life to follow.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too that I want to point out before we wrap up is that this isn't just specific to husbands, wives, like you mentioned,
Exactly.
bosses, children, friends, people that you have to interact with, business partners. I mean, the list goes on and on. Teachers, relationships that you have with coworkers. So this stuff can impact any of those relationships, and they can all be traumatic for people.
Very
So
much.
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give people who, if this is hitting on your heart, call Kerry. Reach out. She's seriously one of the most amazing women I know and has helped so many women, has helped me deal with situations where I didn't feel like I could get through them. So thank you for being my friend and for giving me advice and guiding me through some of this stuff and teaching me about all these things that made me feel like, okay, this is kind of something other people are experiencing. I'm not just alone. So that's one of the biggest things I think with people at divorce, whatever the situation is that they're dealing with, you feel so alone.
You do feel alone.
And in midlife is so crazy. It's so crazy that you're so busy and spread thin, taking kids everywhere and, making dinner and working and all these things that we do, that you just don't take care of yourself in that way. And sometimes you need help.
Hmm.
You just need the help. So I will definitely put Kerry's information in the show notes so that you can check that out, and reach out to her. And what's the best way to get you? Is it email?
Email. You can go onto Instagram, DM me through there.
Oh, yeah. If you're
Do
on
that.
social media and you have
Mhm.
not seen Kerry's stuff, it
Mhm.
is amazing. Like every day I see it, it just fills my heart. Like it just makes me so happy and motivates me. So definitely check that out. I'll put those in the show notes as well for social media. Kerry is going to be back. She's allowing me to interview her about things that we've done together from the medical wellness side. So she will be back. This is not the last time that you'll see Kerry. So
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome. And just remember, knowledge is empowerment. So if you have a feeling that something's not right, it's not right. Dig deeper. If you met somebody and how did you feel after you left? If they made you feel uncomfortable, that's a huge red flag. Pay attention to your red flags. They tell you a lot. Your body tells you everything.
yeah, such a great point. Well, thank you. Hope you guys have a
Thanks.
great week. We will see you next Wednesday on Midlife Mayhem.
Yay!